There we go.
Hi,
What do you think?
I think Lewis is amazing. I think he's a modern-day hero. I think everything that he's done is just so inspirational. I think the long swim has really brought to everyone's attention how important our seas are and how important it is for all of us to do our bit to protect them, to restore them to health, and to make sure that this amazing environmental resource is there for future generations. And Lewis's courage, his grit, his amazing dedication, I think is an example to us all.
So what is your message to Environment Secretaries like Michael Gove here in the UK and elsewhere? You're heading off to New York, obviously. What do you want to say?
Well, it's an opportunity now for Britain really to lead. At the moment, in terms of global leadership, there's a vacuum in terms of protecting our oceans. I think this is a natural place for Britain to be in terms of protecting our oceans, not only here around the UK, but also our overseas territories. I'd like Michael to be going to the G7 summit and showing the other G7 nations and also in the United Nations that we talk the talk, that when it comes to ocean protection, we do the job. It's very, very difficult for us to be encouraging other nations to do the same thing if we in Britain are not leading.
Lewis is right. We've already taken some steps to protect the waters around this country, but there is more that we need to do, and there's more that we also need to do in order to galvanise a global coalition, in order to make sure that our oceans are purged of plastic, but more broadly, that we also have more protected areas in which we stop the exploitation of our seas and allow nature to recover.
But we only have 3 fully non-exploitable parts of the UK water, don't we? Lundy Island, Arran, a small part of Yorkshire. Only 3. It's not really doing anything, is it? More needs to be done.
You're right that more needs to be done. We've already said that there will be more marine protected areas and more marine conservation zones around the UK.
Do you think that will really genuinely do it? Are you convinced that's actually the point? Because sometimes you're protecting one species from one specific activity in a small area. You need to protect the whole ecosystem and the whole habitat.
I think there's always got to be a balance which is struck in order to make sure that coastal communities can continue to fish, but in a sustainable way. And one of the lessons of Lewis's swim is that we will only ensure that we have a fishing industry in the future if we make sure that we have sustainable resources now. And it's striking that balance, which it's important we all do, and we have to do it globally. We have to recognise that there are some parts of our seas and oceans which need to be completely protected, which should be no-take zones. There are other areas where the right sort of fishing can carry on, provided it's sustainable and environmentally sensible.
I mean, we've seen scallop wars. While you've been in the water, there have been battles off the coast of Normandy, fighting over the scraps of what's left of the scallop industry there. And these are fishermen being attacked, British fishermen being attacked. So it's exactly what you're talking about.
It's a very, very interesting thing. You know, Desmond Tutu always says when we damage the environment, we create conditions ripe for conflict. And so many of the conflicts which are taking place around the world today are taking place as a result of a conflict over limited resources. And he also says that when we protect the environment, we foster peace. So when I see images of British fishermen and French fishermen fighting, I think to myself, we really have to do absolutely everything now to protect the environment, to avoid this type of conflict with our neighbours here in France.
It's a real concern for the government to see stuff like that as well, isn't it?
It's deeply concerning. My heart goes out to all the fishermen who've been caught up in this. As you know, and I'm from a fishing background myself, and I do have enormous sympathy. And I think it's important that we, as we are doing, talk to the French government, make sure that those fishermen who are fishing legally are protected as they go about their work. And we also need to make sure that in the future we've got the right regime in order to ensure, exactly as Lewis says, that we have healthy and sustainable resources for the future.
We're talking about the politics of scallop fishing, and here you are, not even feeling the cold. I don't think you ever feel the cold.
I am feeling the cold.
Are you?
Yes.
I feel that you need to go and get, what's your favourite food?
Well, it's ranged. I started on chocolate and then it was potatoes, and for the last, I don't know, 4 weeks it's been hot cross buns.
Hot cross buns, and it's not even Easter. I think we need to get you a hot cross bun. Lewis Pugh, it's amazing to see what you've done. I have to say, you'd have lost me on jumping in. I think we can all probably say that. None of us would really like to do that, but how do you feel about having finally completed what has been a long-held goal of yours to swim the English Channel and become a record breaker?
It's an absolute relief, but just remembering this wasn't about breaking records. This was not about swimming. This was about trying to convey a message to people here around the UK that we have a very, very precious resource and that we must protect it for not only our generation, but most importantly for future generation and also for the animal kingdom.
How did he do, everyone? What do you think?